I'm an alum at Temp now. I went to school here just like you guys. I was a software engineer. And I started in 2019. I graduated in 2023. And I'm here because I want to share a bit of my story. I'm currently a software engineer at SpaceX in LA, and I just want to share with you guys how I kind of got that career path to where I am today from where I was working or how I got there from Tom. Okay, kiitos. So yeah, like I said, this is what I want to share with you guys today. Just a little background on like my career path, so hopefully you guys can learn from what I did. Okay, this is a PDF, so I just gotta scroll. So like I said, the purpose of today, hopefully I can give some advice on like how I've done my internships and my jobs so far. So it'll help you guys as well. Okay, so for a little background on me, so I'm from Sacramento, California, and I had no CS experience coming here. I took one CS class in 2019, I did take one CS class before coming to Tom, and I was like, oh, I like computer science, like it's kind of cool. So I had one CS class and that was it. I never made a project or anything like that. And then I started at Temp in 2019. And I want to share with you guys that the student life is not easy because, I mean, of course, one half of it is locking in. Like we're all here to get jobs and like get good grades and stuff like that. But I also encourage you guys to definitely do the social side as well. I mean, I think Tampere is a beautiful city. Like I'm just back here for a week. I gotta go back to California, and I love it here. Like I really miss the city, and like I wish I did more while I was here. So make the most of it while you guys are living in the city, please, and make a lot of friends. Make as many connections as you can. But on the lock-in side of things, definitely worry about getting good grades. I think a good GPA is important for some internships, but also not just the grades, but make sure you genuinely learn. Like this, when you're doing an interview, I mean, one of the main things is like having a discussion with somebody and like being able to talk in technical depth. So genuinely knowing this stuff is very important. And the lock-in, apply to internships, of course. Like do the actual application stuff. Here's my background for internships while I was studying at Temp. I had 3 internships. The first was at a Finnish company called Hyoltu, which was bought by Ralte, or it's like a Ralte company. And I got this internship basically by, it was through a connection. Like a friend of a mom's friend knew someone who worked at the company, and because of that, I was able to get an interview. And because there's some sort of connection, it was a bit easier. So it wasn't like, it was like a cold approach. So I highly recommend, do a lot of networking here. Like I said, make friends in Tampere here. Then that summer, I had an internship at Samsung in California. This I was able to get with 0 experience on my resume. Like I hadn't worked at Hyoltu yet when I had applied, so I was just applying with just projects on my resume. So I'll give a little information about maybe some advice on how that can help you guys get an internship with no prior experience, because I think that's one of the hardest parts is how do you start when you don't have any experience yet to show for yourself. And then my last internship was at Viasat for my final summer here. And so this is like a little page just showing what I worked on. So yeah, when I was at Hyoltu, I was there just for a couple months and I worked on some C# with C++ libraries. It was actually really cool. Definitely I regret not working more with the people, like talking with the coworkers more and like making more connections. And the same thing for Samsung as well. Like I did some cool stuff with C there, working with like the system on a chip code. And looking back at those first 2 especially, I should have talked to way more people. Like I was like so in my own bubble and like not meeting with other people, like making connections, getting lunch or coffee with people. So like that kind of stuff is very important. And then lastly, I had my internship at Viasat, which went well enough for me to get a return offer there. So my final year of college, I didn't really do any full-time job applications because I had that coming up. So I just want to show you guys some numbers, nothing crazy, but when I was applying to jobs in Finland, I would say I probably did about like 50 applications, but like I said, I kind of had the connection, so I didn't apply too much. Samsung was about 200 plus applications in. I kind of added them together here, because it was like 1 year that I was applying. And then, as you can see on my last one, it was 500 plus applications. And don't be too shocked by that number. That's just like, that's normal now. Those are rookie numbers. So you guys like, maybe you can have less, like if you really tailor your resume, but I would say don't be too shocked by those numbers. Like you kind of have to put the work in. It also helps if these are all cold approaches too, so it helps if you can like talk to someone. You probably have to apply less if you have a connection. Okay, and then for the latter half of my current experience is, I would say, my thesis. I think my thesis played a big role. And have you guys heard anything yet about the thesis you have to do for your senior year? Has anyone heard anything about it? Do they still have to do the thesis?
What was the question?
Do they still have to do the thesis?
Yeah, they have thesis. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So this is a senior year thing, and something I really like about TAMK is this thesis. At first, when I was a freshman, first year here, I was very nervous about doing a thesis because it sounded like a big project. I had no idea what I was going to do it on. But I want to share kind of how I chose my topic. Basically, instead of thinking of a topic, I kind of worked backwards with what types of technologies I wanted to use, and use the thesis as a opportunity to learn the things that I want to learn about that I didn't really learn from my classes, right? So for example, I really like C++, so I wanted my thesis to be C++ based. So that's a factor. And the other thing too, which I think is important, is graph theory and graph algorithms, which I felt like I didn't learn that much at TAMK, but I knew it was really important for elite code and job interviews, as they use a lot of algorithms. So I wanted to have a thesis where I was learning algorithms at the same time. So I was able to apply these algorithms to making some cryptocurrency arbitrage program to try to make a profit in trading cryptocurrencies. So anyways, that's basically, no stress, but I highly recommend kind of going that route, or figuring out what you guys like to do, and then working backwards that way to figuring out a topic that fits what you like to work on. And I guess I also want to point out too, for example, my thesis here, I put as fall 2022. We didn't really start until the last semester, but I was already thinking almost a year ahead of time what I wanted to do my topic on, because it was really important to me that I did a thesis that I was really interested in versus last minute doing a topic just for the sake of a grade. And then I graduated, of course, and then after graduating, I moved to San Diego to start working at Viasat, which they do satellite internet. So the thing I want to point out for Viasat is, at this point in my career, I still honestly, I knew I like C++, but I didn't necessarily understand what it is that I like to do for programming. So I went in with doing test automation, which at first I thought was fine, programming, a programming job is a programming job, right? Which is true, if you get a job, hey, that's great. But after getting a job and having some experience there, I was working this for about a year, and I realized I don't really care about doing test automation. It's a lot of Python scripting, and if you know Jenkins, well, you might in the future. So within Viasat, the company, about a year in, I talked to my manager, and I was able to tell him hey, I want to switch teams, and he helped me look for a new team within the company. And I think that's an important thing as well, is when it's hard to find a tech job, one thing that might help is just try to get into a company that you might be interested in, and then within the company, you work on that team for maybe a year, but then you can do an internal switch. It's way easier than if you're an external applicant trying to apply, if people already know you there. So yeah, about a year in, I switched to this Linux OS developer, which was a lot more interesting to me. I was doing Linux and a lot of C programming. It was still hard though. I still had to do some interview rounds. It wasn't like I was just able to switch with no problem, but it made it a lot easier. And I guess I also want to point out that during this time, because I just had some internship experience, and this was my first full-time job. I really didn't have a lot of actual embedded experience, right? Embedded being C, C++, working with closer to the bare metal, maybe operating system level as well. And so in my spare time, when I was working, after work, I would read books and I would work on these little side projects for the sake of learning. And one thing I really regret too, Petri, is the embedded systems courses here are actually really good. And at the time, I didn't really care about them. But looking back, I recreated them. I was actually looking back at my old GitHub repos of saved code from the Arduino and stuff like that. I was trying to recreate it. I was oh my god, I wish I just took better notes back then.
Whenever I have spare time, I'm playing with those tools as well. So I agree. I share that.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah, so it was I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted, but now it's that's my interest at the current moment, is embedded software, more low level. So all to say that you know, it takes effort. Like outside of work, you know, you're still learning and you're still like applying yourself to projects. And so now in this fall, I got an offer from SpaceX, and that's where I'm working now. And it's the same process, really. Like even after switching jobs internally at Viasat, for the past year, it's been just constantly reading more books, doing more side projects, and like grinding leak code. Like if you guys haven't heard of leak code yet, well, you're going to be familiar with it. That's crucial for a lot of job interviews. And so yeah, that's my background. So now I'm just going to give you guys a little bit of advice. Hopefully it's something you haven't heard of before. So for example, how to get an internship with no experience? I swear this question plagued me when I was a first year. So your resume is just going to be a lot of projects, really. I mean, that's all you can really have on there. But I highly recommend that the projects you have impact. So you're not just like making a to-do list or something like that, or like a calculator app, but maybe some of these are some good ideas for inspiration. So if you can contribute to open source, for example, you know, a lot of things are open source, like Bitcoin wallet is open source, you know, and like that would be a crazy C++ project to have on your resume. So you could try to get into that and like contribute to that project. Also hackathons, if you can win any prizes, then it's also really interesting to see that you made a project that maybe a company was interested in, or that you have for, like you got a prize for or something. So you can say you placed first place or something, or you won something. And then finally, publish an app or website. So at Temp, you're gonna make a lot of websites, you're gonna make some apps, and like it's really cool. Like you put all this effort in to making this really beautiful website. I mean, I hope your website's beautiful, but you know, you're already that far. I think it's to go the extra mile of like getting a domain name, or at least just like hosting it somewhere where people can like access it over the internet through a browser, would make a project stand out, because then you can share metrics of your website or your app saying like, I got this many visits, you know, maybe, you know, this many downloads or something like that. So being able to like have metrics alongside like in your bullet points for your project experience makes it look way more tangible and like have more impact. Okay, how to get a full-time software engineering job. Now, you guys don't have to worry about this for a while, you know, this is like maybe after college or something, but I think like a lot of this can also translate to internships, but maybe not, so that's why I just said full-time. So what I noticed for myself was that worked for me with applying to jobs was specialization. So when I was applying to internships and like when I was first applying to jobs, I had every programming language on my resume. You know, like if I took a class and Petri taught Java for one class, I had Java on my resume. Like I don't even remember how to do Hello World in Java, but I had Java on my resume, right? Like don't do that, okay? I would highly recommend less is more. Like you want to be very niche. Like you're targeting a specific job. The downside of this is if you don't know what it is you want to do yet, then maybe you have to have multiple resumes or something like that. So I think that's why I kind of say for full-time jobs, like when you're just doing internships, they don't expect you to have like a specialization necessarily. But for me in this last job application like season I did, this was crucial to have like, all my experience was embedded related. Like if, for example, I've made React websites or I've used Svelte to make a Chrome extension, but I wouldn't have that experience on my resume because it's irrelevant to the actual job I'm going for. Okay. Now, how to prepare for interviews. So there's multiple stages to interviews, but I would say there's like two main things, like two main types of interviews you guys got to worry about. One of them is after you submit your resume or something and they like want to talk to you, and it's like a technical interview, not like recruiter screen or something like that. They're probably gonna look at your resume and they're gonna ask you to they're gonna want to have a conversation about a certain topic or a certain bullet point, and they're gonna want to be able to go in depth about it. So if you're not able to talk in depth about a project that you have or experience on your resume, then you're not gonna move forward. So make sure that like whatever experience you have on your resume, you're able to talk in depth about it. So before an interview, look at your own resume and like talk to yourself. Like, can I talk thoroughly about these things about myself? And then the other side of interviews is the like online assessment. So like a lot of companies will still send you like leak code questions or something similar where they give you some kind of coding challenge that you have to solve in a certain amount of time. And so for that, obviously you have to know your data structures and algorithms. Like that comes up all the time. I don't think I've had a single interview like for a company like through the stages where I haven't had at least one DSA type of question. So that's also something like in the future, like you can just look up leak code or like data structures and algorithms, and you can learn that on the side. I highly recommend learning it on your own too. So that's it for my presentation. Just want to share some experiences, and hopefully that helped you guys with some advice. If you have any questions right now, please raise your hand or ask. Yeah, hey.
Yeah, going back to like the hackathon thing, I assume like you joined like some or.
I actually didn't really ever do any hackathons. No.
Okay.
I've been to like maybe one or two, but that wasn't something. I recommend it though. Highly recommend it.
But okay, since you like joined like some, how was it like for the first time? Since like it's kind of like scary to like join these type of things.
The hackathon?
You have no experience. Yeah.
Super scary, dude.
Yeah.
It's
something.
I can't. I have no advice or something, but yeah, hackathons are scary, man. Especially when you're first getting started. One thing I was doing. Are you guys all familiar with LeetCode, or how many of you are familiar with when I say LeetCode? You've heard of it? Okay, cool. So like this, I wasn't doing hackathons, but it was a similar thing where, you know, that like LeetCode has like a weekly contest you can like register for. So I was doing that every week, like the whole summer and like fall. And at first, like the first 5 weekends of me doing that, like every weekend I did it. The first 5, like I was always nervous. But then after maybe the five in a row, I would just like sign up last minute, join. Like it was no stress. Like I'm not saying I then crushed it in these weekly contests, but I at least didn't have that pressure. Just like so repeatability.
So I'm guessing it's just like good to like get out there and just do it and like just get that experience while trying. Like.
Yeah, and you don't even need a path. Like you don't even need to do great. Just make some friends.
Yeah.
Connect with some people on LinkedIn. It's perfect. Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
I want to ask about the certificates, like AWS certificates or something. From which, like, should we take them on second year or third year? Are they really important?
I think it depends on the type of job that you're trying to apply for. Like if your job is AWS heavy, like it uses AWS features, then I would say it probably helps. I haven't done any AWS certificates because I think that the kind of like the specialization I've kind of navigated towards doesn't require it. For example, one type of certificate I would do like the LinkedIn Learning certificates, which are like kind of absolutely useless. I mean, it wasn't really for the certificate; it was more for like just like the sake of actually like learning like from those. But I think AWS certificates definitely have like a use case. Same with Kubernetes. Like if you guys care about Kubernetes too, those are both good.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
When you were applying for jobs with your like embedded projects, how were you able to actually highlight what skills you put into that so you could tell employers like this is that, this is what I'm good at, please hire me?
So actually that's a good point. Yeah, one thing I always noticed, like, especially when I was younger, I would put so much effort into making each bullet point sound so technically complex. You know, like when you said you worked at McDonald's and you're like you know what I'm saying? Like you make it sound overly complicated, right? And you're trying to like cram as many like buzzwords and like words that the resume parser would try to catch, right? So hopefully you get passed on to like a recruiter screen or something, right? Like you get your first pass. But I highly recommend make it like. Because at some point, a recruiter, like a human, is going to read your resume. And if you make it sound so technically complicated with all that jargon, like the recruiter's like, I ain't gonna read all that. So I highly recommend make it as easy and like visually digestible as possible. And then like all those like skills that you want to cram in there to, actually like have, like show that you have those skills, I would put in like a separate column, like when you like list all your skills in like a bullet point or like a comma separated or something. But yeah, don't need to necessarily cram it all into the actual bullet point. Okay, any other questions? We're done.
You had like
Okay. Yeah, what's up?
you had like the 250, 500 applications. Did you automate the workflows, like search up the jobs and then also to apply for them, or did you just manually like on the go?
It's tedious, man. Yeah, it was all manual. At some point, you you get so what's it called, like the hand-eye coordination, like it's so mechanical, like you know exactly what to click when you're, because it's usually like the same type of forms, like it's usually like a Workday application or like Greenhouse. You might see those URLs pop up when you're applying to jobs, but you get used to seeing like typical forms, you know exactly like where, like how far to move your mouse and like click and like autofill is, yeah. So yeah, I didn't automate it. So Well, anyways, if you guys want to connect with me, feel free to connect with me in any way. So if you have any other questions or something, I would be happy to help. All right. Well, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Patrick.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Eric. It was glad to hear what you said, and you're confirming. Thank you. And great that you are always visiting us, even after tragedy a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
This